Hello guys, now let us begin our chapter, digestion and absorption. Coming to this chapter, the thing which you are seeing right now is just basic introduction, which anyone can study and which you yourself need to highlight the points. Nearly there will be 5 points coming if you underline them. It will be very easy and which so many of the teachers will never try to ask questions. So it is not that much of important. Coming to the subtopics, we classify the lesson into four subtopics: digestive system, digestion of food, absorption of digestive products, and disorders of digestive system. Okay, now let us start with the digestive system. As per NCRT, the digestive system is divided into alimentary canal and digestive glands. So now let us start with the alimentary canal. So now, in the alimentary canal, so first let us start with the mouth. The mouth leads into the buccal cavity. This buccal cavity is divided into two parts. One is tooth and other one is tongue. This tooth, this tooth had a hard chewing surface of tooth is made up of enamel, which helps in the mastication of the food. And then this tooth is in humans, the tooth is called as stecodont, heterodont, and typhodont. We call it as stecodont because the teeth are fixed in the sockets. The teeth are fixed in the sockets. We call it heterodont because we have four different types of teeth, which is 2, 1, 2, 3. Coming to the human digestive system. Human digestive system is two things. One is alimentary canal and other is digestive glands. Coming to the mouth. Alimentary canal, coming to the alimentary canal, the first part of alimentary canal is mouth. This mouth leads into the buccal cavity or oral cavity. And this buccal cavity or oral cavity has two parts. First thing is teeth. The plural form of teeth is tongue. Okay. Coming to the teeth. Coming to the teeth has a hard chewing surface, which is made up of enamel. Enamel. Okay, that's why. And then this tooth is helpful in mastication of food. Okay, this teeth is helpful in mastication of food. And then generally we say that human teeth is thecodont. We say thecodont because the human teeth is embedded in the sockets. That's why we say it as thecodont. And then we say human teeth as heterodont also because heterodont means there are four different types of teeth exist. Four different means incisors, canines, premolars, molars. And then human dental formula is 2123 by 2123. You can ask how did dental formula came and what is it? And if you see here, we should take a quadrant of our mouth. Okay, if we take a quadrant of the mouth, it has two incisors, one canine, two premolars, and then three molars. Generally, this third molar is called as a wisdom teeth, which comes after 18 only. After 18 only it comes. So under 18 test case, if they want to do under 18 test, they'll use this third molar also. Okay, but generally, if they ask adult human means you should say 2, 1, 2, 3, 3 molars only. If they specifically below 18, then you say 2, 1, 2, 2. Okay, but the mostly case, generally they will ask 2, 1, 2, 3 only. Okay, so this is 2, 1, 2, 3. This is for lower jaw, and for upper jaw there will be 2, 1, 2, 3. So 2, 1, 2, 3 by 2, 1, 2, 3. Upper jaw 2, 1, 2, 3, lower jaw 2, 1, 2, 3. And this is one quadrant, that is one quadrant. Still there are two quadrants. So 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 into 4. So total 32 teeth are present in the adult human being. Next, in NCRT, they are also given that the human teeth is called as typhoidont. Typhoidont means that in our lifetime we get teeth two times. One is milk teeth, another thing is permanent teeth. Milk teeth, which you see in the children, and its general dental formula is 2102 by 2102. It is not an NCRT, but just remember that premolars are not there in the small children. So their formula is 2102 by 2102, and then diphyodont it occurs in the majority of mammals. Majority of mammals, it's an important line. And then next coming to the tongue. The tongue is a freely movable muscular organ attached to the floor of oral cavity by frenulum. The upper surface of the tongue has projections called papillae, which bear the taste buds, And then next coming to the buccal cavity or oral cavity, and its functions of buccal cavity or oral cavity is one is mastication of food, which enamel does. Okay, which the enamel does, and second thing was facilitation of swallowing. facilitates of swallowing. This was occurred with the mucus. And now the food that comes after the buccal cavity, that is called as bolus. The food that comes after buccal cavity is called as bolus. And now this bolus goes into the pharynx. The pharynx is the common passage for food as well as air. And then this pharynx opens into the epiglottis. And now so many of you may have doubt how this pharynx is common passage for food and air. See, this one is called as uvula. This one is called as epiglottis. If you want to see this, just take a mirror and keep and open your mouth and see there. At least this will be visible. This is called as uvula. This is called as epiglottis. And see what will happen. This side is digestive tract and one side will be wind tract. When the food enters now, this epiglottis moves this side so that the food can go inside the digestive tract. When you want to breathe, this epiglottis moves like this so that you can breathe happily from this side. This is what happens. Okay. The breathing will come in the next chapter. Now let us read into this. Now the food goes into the esophagus. Okay. Now the food goes into the esophagus, which is a thin, long tube. And now from the this esophagus passes through neck, thorax, and diaphragm, and at last this esophagus leads into a J-shaped bag-like structure. Now, coming to the stomach. According to NCERT, the esophagus opens directly into the cardiac region of the stomach. According to NCERT, the food from the esophagus directly enters into the cardiac regions of the stomach. This is a golden line of NCERT. And generally in the stomach we have four parts: fundus, cardiac, body, and then pyloric. These four parts are given as per NCERT. Okay, and then after this it goes into duodenum. Meanwhile, there was a sphincter called as pyloric sphincter. Here there would be pyloric sphincter, and here opening of the stomach. Here there would be cardiac sphincter or gastroesophageal sphincter. Here there would be gastroesophageal or cardiac sphincter, and here there would be pyloric sphincter. Important. Coming to the next after pyloric sphincter, it leads into the small intestine. In the small intestine, once upon a time in NCERT, they told that duodenum is a U-shaped one. In these days, they changed it into C-shaped one. So C-shaped duodenum, and after duodenum leads into a long coiled middle portion called as jejunum. Jejunum is a long coiled middle portion. And then last one is highly coiled portion, that is ileum. Ileum is the highly coiled portion. Now, after small intestine, the food goes into the large intestine. Meanwhile, we have ileocecal valve. This ileocecal valve means its function is not to allow any backflow. Okay, valve function is not to allow any backflow. Okay, coming to the large intestine. In large intestine, first part is cecum. This cecum is a small blind sac which hosts the microorganisms, as well as the cecum has a narrow finger-like structure called as vermiform appendix, which arises from the cecum. We know that. Okay, from the cecum, there is a narrow finger-like structure called as vermiform appendix, which is a secondary lymphoid organ. Also, maybe you have heard that some people have attended the appendix operation. This is only okay. And then colon. Coming to colon, we have the pathways: ascending colon, ascending, transverse, descending, and then sigmoid. Okay. In NCERT, they not give descending colon; they give descending part. And then in NCERT, they told that from descending part it opens into the rectum, not sigmoid. They told that from descending part it opens into the rectum, and rectum opens into the anus. Okay, means from descending colon it opens into the rectum, and from rectum it opens into the anus. That's it. Now coming to the digestive glands. In the digestive glands, first in NCERT they give is salivary glands. These salivary glands are three types: parotid, submaxillary, and sublingual, and these three secrete the salivary juice into the buccal cavity. Now let us see in the diagram form. This is the parotid gland, and here is the submaxillary and sublingual glands. Sublingual means below the tongue, and submaxillary glands are also called as angles of jaw, which is out of NCERT, just I'm saying it. Okay, and parotid is one of the facial gland. That's it. Now, let us go to the next gland, that is liver, which is the largest gland. Liver is the largest gland, which is 1.2 to 1.5 kg, situated in abdominal cavity just below diaphragm, and liver has two lobes. And then it's a very important golden line of NCERT. Please listen. Hepatic lobules are the structural and functional units of liver. Hepatic lobules are the structural and functional units of liver. And these hepatic lobules contain hepatic cells. These hepatic cells are arranged in the form of cords. Okay, these cords are lined by a thin capsule, thin connective tissue, and that is called as Glissen's capsule. Okay, these hepatic cells, they're arranged in the form of cords, and these cords are surrounded by one thin connective tissue, and this is called as Glissen's capsule. And this entire thing is called as hepatic lobule. So hepatic lobule is covered by thin connective tissue called as Glissen's capsule, as well as it contains the hepatic cells. It contains the hepatic cells. Now, the bile, which is secreted by the hepatic cells, it passes through hepatic ducts and stored and concentrated in a thin muscular sac that is called as gallbladder, and which is guarded by cystic duct. As well as from the ducts of liver, there is a duct from common hepatic duct, and both of these join and form a common bile duct. And this common bile duct and pancreatic duct together open into duodenum as hepatopancreatic duct, and this hepatopancreatic duct is guarded by sphincter of Oddi. If you want, let us see by a diagram. See, here is the gallbladder, and here is the duct of gallbladder, nothing but cystic duct. And here are the hepatic duct, which converts to form common hepatic duct. It is common hepatic duct and cystic duct combine to form a common bile duct. And this common bile duct and pancreas, both of these combine to open into duodenum as hepatopancreatic duct. At last, coming to the pancreas. The pancreas are situated between the limbs of C-shaped duodenum. And generally, we say pancreas has both exocrine part and endocrine part. Exocrine means the part which doesn't have ducts, and these secrete alkaline pancreatic juice. Generally, exocrine part, generally the one which has duct, they carry the enzymes, and the one which are ductless, they carry the hormones. So the endocrine part is there now. They carry the hormones like insulin and glucagon, and the exocrine part they secrete the alkaline pancreatic juice which contain the enzymes. Now, after digestive system completion, there is a thing which is left in it, which is common to both digestive system and digestion of food. Why I am saying here? Because it is a connecting point for the both the topics. Okay, let us start with it. If we cut the gut transversely, then we'll see four layers. Outermost is serosa, and then next is muscularis. This muscularis has outer longitudinal and inner circular muscles. Okay. In stomach, there is an extra layer which is called as oblique layer, which is very inner. Okay. Means outer is longitudinal, next inner circular, and the next is oblique layer, which is inner than circular. Okay. And the next is submucosa, and the next is mucosa, which contains the lumen. Next is mucosa, which contains the lumen. I know this diagram is not good, but okay, the resources which I have in them, this is the best diagram. For a better understanding, just I'm taking it. See, here is the serosa. Next is longitudinal muscles, next is circular muscles, and next is submucosa, and the next is mucosa. In submucosa, there are only one gland present. That is also in duodenum only. That is Brunner's glands. Okay, Brunner's glands. Okay, generally the submucosa is a loose connective tissue which contain nerves, blood, and lymph vessels. Okay, and next coming to the mucosa. In mucosa, and then in intestine we have villi. Let's go somewhat more depth about coming to the mucosa. Okay, the mucosa functions. First thing, the mucosa forms irregular folds in stomach. These irregular folds are nothing but rugae. Okay, and mucosa also form small finger-like foldings, and these are called as villi in small intestine. And you also know that these villi contain microvilli, and which gives the breast border appearance. It's a golden line of NCERT. Breast border appearance. Okay. So the breast border appearance is given by the microvilli. And next point, Mucosal epithelium has goblet cells which secrete mucus that helps in lubrication. If you refer the structural organization in animals lesson, there you will see that some cuboidal or columnar cells they become specialized to become a unicellular or multicellular glands. In unicellular glands, you will see the goblet cells which secrete the mucus. Okay, that's what here. It's the linking point of the both lessons. Coming to the next point, the mucosa forms gastric glands in stomach, and in the mucosa in the villi is present in mucosa, right? Yeah. In the villi, in between the pages of villi, there are some gaps. Those gaps are only called as crypts, and these crypts form crypts of Lieberkühn. These crypts of Lieberkühn are also called as intestinal glands. Okay, intestinal glands. Coming to the gastric glands in stomach, there are three types of cells present in the gastric glands. First thing is mucus neck. First thing is mucus neck cells, which secrete the mucus. Second thing is peptic or thick cells, which secrete pepsinogen. And third thing is parietal or oxyntic cells, which secrete HCl and intrinsic factor. So many members have confusion that intrinsic factor secretes vitamin B12, it digests vitamin B12 or absorbs vitamin B12. Remember, it's an important point. Intrinsic factor absorbs vitamin B12, which is a golden line of NCRT. Intrinsic factor absorbs vitamin B12. Coming to the next thing, mucus and bicarbonates. Mucus and bicarbonates play an important role in lubrication and protects the mucosal epithelium from exoculation. This happens in stomach. Okay, this happens in stomach because you know that in stomach there is a very high acidity, means very low pH of HCl. That's why this happens. As I explained you once again, I'm explaining in stomach there will be very high acidity, means very low pH, so it can damage the mucosal epithelium of the stomach. To prevent this, the mucus and bicarbonate helps it, so that exoculation of stomach will not happen. And next thing, now this HCl after stomach it moves into the intestine. So in intestine it can damage the intestinal mucosa. So to prevent it, again mucus and bicarbonate help in preventing the intestinal mucosa to be destroyed by acidity, and they also give the alkaline medium so that the enzymatic activities can occur. Okay, this is what happens in the intestine.